Hello everyone, welcome to At America TV. My name is Aninda. I'm one of the guests here in At America. It's really nice to see you all. We hope you all doing well and staying safe at home. For those of you who just joined us for the first time, At America is the US Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. We have moved temporarily to a digital platform so you can enjoy our events from the comfort of your own home. This morning, we'll be discussing Knowledge at America, saving the environment through product management. By the way, did you know, as a continuation of our 10th anniversary celebration, we are having a very special activity each month with different giveaways. This August, we have hashtag Academania, in which we are giving out a voucher for a TOEFL IBT test and another American standardized test of your choice. To know more and how to join this activity, please visit atam.tv/academania. In the meantime, let's break the ice with a little game. The question for today is, when did regulation banning single-use plastic bags in traditional markets, modern supermarkets, and mini markets across Jakarta take effect? Is it A, January 2020, B, May 2020, C, July 2020, or D, September 2020? If you already know the answer, you can start typing your answer on our chat box or social media, because in the end of the event, we'll do a live shout out for those of you who can guess the answer correctly. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag us on our Instagram. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our moderator for today, Mbak Tessa Vini, digital marketer and social media specialist. Time is yours.
Thank you, Kaninda. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tessa Vini. I am a digital marketer, and I would like to thank America for the opportunity given me this morning to join this discussion as a moderator. Our topic today is saving the environment through product management. First of all, I'm going to invite our wonderful keynote speaker. The first one is Dr. Hannah J. Stolze. Good morning, Dr. Hannah.
Good morning.
Okay, and our second speaker is Dr. Dina Dellyana. Good morning, Dr. Dina.
Good morning.
Okay, before we start the presentation, I would like to remind the participant that you may put any question you have on at America's social media platform, and we're going to answer the question at the Q&A session, and after all the presentation ended. So, without any further ado, we move to our first keynote speaker of the day. She is Dr. Hannah J. Stolze, Associate Professor of Lipscomb University, Wheaton College Center for Faith and Innovation. Dr. Hannah, are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you, Tessa.
Okay, the time is 25 minutes and the stage is yours.
Wonderful. I'm going to share screen here, and I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about the impact of negative information about your company and your supply chain, and how that impacts environmental brands and the environmental responsibility of a company. So this was a research project that I worked on with a couple of my co-authors at two other universities in the US. But I'm going to start at a really high level and just talk a little bit first about what environmental or green brand management is. And I know Dr. Dina is going to talk a little bit more about green marketing, so I won't talk too much about that. But what I will talk about is that if you're going to have an environmental message, if you're going to market your product, and you'll learn how in a moment how to market the product, but if you're going to market your product as green or environmental, then the story that you tell about your product, the brand that you build, needs to be matched by the things that you do in your company and throughout your supply chain. So environmental brand management is defined as brands that encourage consumer commitment through their environmental or philanthropic engagements by convening value. And the reason that these brands convey this environmental value is because consumers identify with green management and with green brands, and it makes them more loyal to your products and to your brands. And so, especially in the US, and this research we conducted was primarily in America, really demonstrates that consumers really care in the US about green brands and green product management. So when we think about environmental brands or green brands, these are brands that consumers associate with environmental conservation and sustainable business practices. So maybe you have some brands that you think of when you think of really green brands, maybe BP or Land Rover. I don't know what brands, maybe Starbucks. And these brands appeal to consumers because they're aware of the need to protect the environment, and they know that these brands do things strategically to protect the environment. So for instance, if you have gone to Starbucks and bought a coffee, you'll notice that the sleeves on the Starbucks cups are brown. And they do this, they used to bleach them and they used to be dyed and they were white. And Starbucks actually keeps them brown because it's more environmentally friendly. It takes dyes out of the process and it's more easy to recycle. So by having a green brand, this can add a really unique selling point to a product and can boost corporate image as well as being good for the environment, right? We need to save the environment. We need to protect our resources so that future generations have resources to build products from as well. So once you build an environmental brand, you also need to make sure that not only are you telling a story, but that your business operations match the story that you're telling. So environmental brand management is also linked to how sustainable the supply chain strategy is as well. Now, this is my area of specialty. I'm a sustainable supply chain researcher. I teach sustainable supply chain management. And when you think about supply chains, if you've never thought about them before, we're all the way at the end in the upper, I think, right-hand corner where it says the customer. That's you and me when we go into the store. We are the customer. And before we get the product from the store, it goes to a warehouse. And before it was at the warehouse, it was at a factory. And before it was at a factory, it was probably at a silo or in a warehouse. And it came from maybe, let's say, a farm or a forest. So let's talk about a tangible product, because it's a little easier to imagine if we talk about a product like Starbucks that you may have used yourself. So if we think about a tangible product, think about a tennis shoe or a sneaker or a trainer, whatever you call tennis shoes that you go running in or exercise in. And so those tennis shoes have fabric, they have rubber, they have different dyes in them. So there's a lot of different raw materials that get sourced to a manufacturing plant so that they can be transformed into a shoe, then stored in warehouses so that they can show up at Matahari or the mall, wherever, the super mall, wherever it is that you go to buy your shoes. So if your shoe that you're buying and you're an environmentally conscious customer and you want to buy a green brand, then you are trusting that green branding, that everywhere that shoe has been was also environmentally friendly, also had an environmental strategy. So when you talk about a green product, we're thinking that all the way from the raw material to how it was transported to the factory, how it was kept in distribution, all the way to the end customer, this entire supply chain is going to be managed for sustainability. So when we think about sustainable supply chain management, this is an indispensable part of a business sustainability program. It's an indispensable, or it's a really important part of a sustainable or an environmental brand. So in order to have a sustainable supply chain that delivers a sustainable product, you need to know the level of environmental, social, and economic impact of your vendors or your suppliers, as well as your customers. So if you're the manufacturer, you want to know where is the fabric and the dye and the rubber going into your shoes coming from. And you also want to know, let's say your customer is Matahari or some, grocery store or retail store. You need to know how Matahari is also putting that product into the market as well. And not only is this becoming increasingly common for, American brands that they're tracking their entire supply chains, it's also becoming increasingly important for consumers as well. And that's because consumers have more transparency and awareness of where products come from than ever before. And a great way to explore this for yourself is to look at Patagonia. And if you've never heard of Patagonia, they're a brand in the US that builds or makes outdoor clothing and equipment. And you can actually track their products from the sheep to the textile mill to the factory, all the way to the warehouses and the store where you and I would go as a customer to buy them. So it's really important that you're not only creating a sustainable brand, but that you're managing and understanding the entire supply chain that makes up that product and creates viability or believability for your brand story. So when we think about environmental supply chains and building towards green products and green product management, you cannot do this alone. So depending on where you end up in the supply chain, whether you work for a manufacturer or you're working in raw materials or in transportation or in the retail space, or you're just a brand manager and you commission and pay everybody else to get the product to market, you need to understand the entire supply chain from raw material to customer and how your product is created. Because once you start saying your product is green, consumers are going to expect that story to be true. Now, we all know that things go wrong. Factories have spills, products aren't always as great as we hoped they would be. And so what happens when things go wrong through that entire system? And here's why environmental branding and green marketing and environmental supply chain management are so critical today. It's because of something that we call the spillover effect. And you're probably aware, we're all streaming on Zoom. We all get a lot of information now from social media, whether your favorite platform is Instagram or I don't know what other platforms, Twitter or Facebook. If you're old like me, maybe it's Facebook. But we get a lot of information through social media and a lot of information online that we never had access to before. So why this is important is because if you have an environmental story that you're telling about your brand, and something goes wrong or goes really right, there's a spillover effect of that news into the way that consumers will perceive your product. So the spillover effect means that any news, any information about your product or your brand is going to impact how consumers perceive that end product, whether it's really true about that end product or not. So let me give you an example, because that sounds really abstract, just like that. So if you're selling tennis shoes and somebody says, wow, the manufacturing plant that makes those tennis shoes is the cleanest manufacturing plant in the whole world. So it's positive news, right? Consumers will think that those tennis shoes are actually better running shoes, even though having a clean plant doesn't necessarily mean that that shoe becomes the best running shoe on the entire market. Okay, so it's unrelated information that's positive, makes consumers think more positively about your product. Now, of course, we all know the flip side, right? Bad news travels faster. So the other side of this is that if something bad happens in your supply chain, not your own company, any company that you are partnered with, and it's bad news. So say there's news out there, you have a contract manufacturer who makes your tennis shoes, and they say this contract manufacturer has the dirtiest plant in the world. Not only that, but they dump all their waste in the streams and rivers around the factory. Now, it doesn't actually have anything to do with the tennis shoes themselves. It's just talking about the manufacturing plant where they were made. But research says that the bad news about the factory will actually spill over onto consumers' perceptions about the quality of the product itself. So here's an example of that. Spillover effect is the extent, this is the definition, to which information provided in messages changes beliefs about the attributes that are not mentioned in the message. So like I said, the example I shared, we had cleanliness of a factory, and then it impacted people's perceptions of the speed of the shoe. So this was a fairly famous study that was done almost 20 years, well, exactly 20 years ago now. And researchers explored the impact of an article about shock absorption. So how cushy a pair of tennis shoes are. And shock absorption doesn't necessarily mean how innovative the shoes are or how comfortable they are or the support of them. But based on whether the news was positive, neutral, or negative, it also impacted unmentioned attributes that consumers, or unmentioned things about the shoes that consumers felt because of the message. So the good news is, if you have a really well-known brand with a really well-known brand story, your branding can actually buffer bad news about your product. Your branding will also absorb and be augmented, or it'll be even more positive when you have good news that comes through about your product. So we explored this in a different space because we wanted to know not just about shock absorption, like the study 20 years ago looked at, but my co-authors and I wanted to explore, what does this look like in supply chains when the bad news comes from operations far away from the brand company? So we looked at examples like Foxconn, and there was a lot of bad news that came out about the factories in China. And of course, Apple, it was partnered with Foxconn, and there was a lot of news in 2016, so 5 years ago, about the potential for Apple to move their manufacturing from China. So we thought about this in the context of workers and social issues, but also in the context of environmental issues. If there was some bad news about the environmental, things going on within a supply chain, how does that impact the end consumer and their perceptions of the product that you're selling? So we explored this really at the manufacturer level. So the brand company usually doesn't own the plants in the US anyway. Usually the brand company designs the product and then pays somebody else to make them. So we explored what happens in the supply chain when things go wrong. We looked at what is the impact of a supply chain related message, focusing on environmental responsibility. And when there's good news or bad news, how does that impact a consumer's evaluation of the product with unrelated, attributes that are unrelated to the message? So we were particularly interested in the negative effects because we know that negative information is actually more powerful for your brand than positive. So we want to build up, and Dr. Dina is going to tell you how to build the positive story. I'm just going to be the sad person who focuses on the negative stuff. No pressure, Dr. Dina. But negative information sometimes, because it spreads so much faster, can sometimes be more diagnostic than positive information. So if that makes sense, like you can kind of tell like what's happening really within a company, not based on what everybody says is good, but when somebody tells you like, oh, there's something bad going on, if that makes sense. So we looked at also, is there a missing link? Is there something also happening when you have a really strong brand that tells a really strong story about environmental strategies? Does that protect you as a company when negative things happen? So if you pursue a green brand and you try to build a green product and consumers buy your product because it's environmentally friendly, because it's a green product, does that help you in the long run when things do go bad? So we looked at a lot of different literature and a lot of past research that looked at all of the possible outcomes of both positive and negative news. So we looked at, if you have positive news, it can increase consumers' willingness to purchase from you. It can increase positive word of mouth. Now you're going to tell your mom and your cousin to go and buy the product as well. Also, positive news will encourage consumers to pay more for your product. So if you have a green product and consumers are confident this product is really environmentally friendly, that's what we call green products, environmentally friendly, a lot of consumers, especially in the US, and a lot of this data is collected in the US, a lot of consumers will actually pay more for that product. Also, if consumers are environmentally friendly or environmentally conscious, and they buy your product because of that, they pay more for your product, they're actually going to be more loyal to your company and your brands as well. So these are important things to know going into our research. So we looked at how positive messages, they slightly enhance brand attitudes. They will improve perceptions of the product attributes, but only when consumers already like the brand. So it's really important up front. Everything that happens in your supply chain should match the story that the marketers and the people facing the consumers are telling. The story has to match not just what you're saying to the customer, but also what you're doing throughout your company. But we know on the flip side, even though positive messages only give you a slight bump, negative messages are really harmful. So we explored these negative messages in depth. And we had 4 different hypotheses, really focusing in on negative supply chain information. And how does that impact consumers' perceptions of your product's attributes, as well as the brand itself? And if you have a really strong known brand, does that decrease the impact of negative news? So here's our context. Everybody, well, most people, I think, are familiar with printers. So we used a printer story on social media, just a really, really short news article as the information that we were conveying. And we did a couple tests to make sure that all of the things that we talked about, all of the printer related attributes were important to consumers. So if you think about 6 different attributes that might be important, it was like Wi-Fi speed, quality of the print, the ink quality. We also looked to make sure that the articles seemed realistic. Okay, so those are just some research things on the front end. And so we looked at, these were all the different attributes that we explored. So output quality, the technology of the printer, the price, the warranty, and none of these things are actually directly related to how green the product is, right? If you look at that, like, does price really mean anything about the environmental sustainability of the product? If it has a really good warranty on the product, doesn't necessarily mean it's more or less environmentally friendly. So we ran some experiments, and these are what the ads look like. So you can see the positive ad is the green one, and we used HP as our main brand example. And we had HP has embarked on a mission to eliminate waste in its production lines. And they have this closed loop recycling program. And so we put out this positive news about the environmental strategy of HP. It's just 2 sentences, a headline, and a little blurb and a picture. On the other side, we also used a fictitious or a fake brand called Telectronics. And we looked at Telectronics and we said both positive and negative news. We have a negative example here. Telectronics continues to produce huge amounts of waste in its printer products. Failed recycling programs have resulted in Telectronics dumping plastic waste and other printer parts. Here's another example of big business polluting our planet. So here we have 2 examples, right? One of positive news on social media and one of negative news. And we did positive and negative news for both HP and positive and negative news for our made up brand, Telectronics. We sampled it across about 159 different people. And here's what we found. I'm going to flip through the statistics. What we found was that message valence, negative messages, significantly decrease consumers' perceptions of the product's quality. Brand stature, so how well known the brand was, if it was HP versus our fake brand called Telectronics, having the HP brand helped a little bit. So it did decrease consumers' negative perceptions of the brand. And so here's what that looks like, that the brand and message interaction. And really what we found is that the brand attitude is always going to be impacted by information, by messages, whether the valence means whether it was negative or positive, and that will impact the attributes that the consumers perceive of the product. So you can see that this was significant, and the negative news greatly decreased consumers' perceptions of the product overall. So these were our hypotheses. We saw that negative information weakened product attribute evaluations compared to the positive ones. Negative supply chain information decreased the brand attitude, decreased brand loyalty, and brand attitude, but it was buffered when the brand was known. So what does this mean? It's a lot of statistics and research for you. What does this mean for you if you want to have an environmental product? It means that consumers really do care, not just that you have an environmental brand or a green brand, but if things go wrong throughout your supply chain and consumers find out that maybe something went wrong at your factory, or something went wrong in transportation of that product or in the waste disposal of the product, it's really important that you pay attention to your entire supply chain so that you can deliver your product to the market in a way that will maintain consumers' loyalty to your brand. So we know that information is highly available. Consumers are going to know where their products came from today more than ever before. Having a really good brand story will help protect you from things going wrong in your supply chain. But you still need to be really cautious because your positive stories will only boost you so much. And the negative stories will definitely decrease consumers' perceptions, not just of your brand and company, but of the quality of your product itself. So brand attitude, or having a green brand story, is a great way of controlling spillover effects. And brands should have a plan. You need to have a contingency plan, a backup plan for how to deal with negative information that reaches consumers, because you will have negative information that will reach your consumers at some point in time. And I would say, as a supply chain expert and loving supply chain management, that you really need to have close relationships with your suppliers and with your customers and with the end consumer so that you are able to control the story, not control, but work together to really deliver a product to the marketplace that matches the story that you're telling. So this research, we just looked at the environmental piece, and we've done subsequent studies since then looking at social and environmental, social and economic impacts. But at the end of the day, when you think about future research and future opportunities out there, the research that I've done really tells a story about how important it is for your brand to not only be green, because the consumers are looking for that, but for the stories that consumers get, they need to match that story you're telling them for your brand as well. So thank you so much. I know that was a lot of research, but there's so much data out there that really helps us understand why consumers care and the impact of what happens when it does go wrong with our suppliers or our customers.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hannah. That was such an inspiring presentation. I think I gained a lot of knowledge, and I also have a lot of questions, but let's keep it up to the end of the presentation. So the next presentation, we move to our second keynote speaker, Dr. Dina Dellyana. She is, Dr. Dina, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Dina is a lecturer and a business incubator director at the School of Business and Management, Institut Teknologi Bandung. So without any further ado, the stage is yours, Dr. Dina.
Okay, let me share my screen. Right. Can you all see my screen? Okay. Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Hannah, for such a really good presentation. I learned a lot, actually. Right. So continuing to Dr. Hannah, today I would like to share some of my experience in helping startups, particularly in green startups running in our incubator. And I try to incorporate some of the studies and journals to actually strengthen some proof about how green marketing can be applied in startup. So we're going to learn from a startup point of view and how to make sure that the effort, our effort of doing green marketing can be can give a significant performance to the startup itself. But as a start, let us find the definition of green marketing, because some definitions may lead to confusion. But here I'm going to give some emphasis that the green marketing is not only the process of promoting products or service, but it has to be completed or incorporated with green product itself. So the product and service that going to be marketed by using this green marketing process or strategy need to be environmentally friendly in themselves or produced in an environmentally friendly way. Why is that? Because if not, then as mentioned by Dr. Hannah before, it's going to be a scam that you try to promote something in a green marketing way, but actually your product is not green at all. So in this kind of digital era, sooner or later the customers will find that your product is a scam. So just to make sure that you're not one of them, before everything else, you have to make sure that your product can be categorized as a green product, right? And there are some activities can be incorporated in green marketing. So it's not merely into some activities like in social media or activities in some marketing channels. But first, you have to start about how if we modify your product, how if you can modify your product into a greener product. How if you can innovate your production process to become greener in terms of how if you're using better resources or using something which is could lead to a greener product. How if you try to change your packaging into more sustainable packaging, how to modify your advertising in terms of choosing the right channels or choosing the right partners to do some advertisings, how to change or start to manufacture your product in a sustainable fashion, how to at least not containing toxic materials or ozone depleting substances, how if you start to produce from recycled materials, or how if you can make some products made from renewable materials, and also you start to not making use of excessive packaging. So this is some small efforts that you can do, if you already started your startups or your product, but you think that oh no, my product is not green at all, or at least my product is not actually supporting some environment conscious kind of campaign. It's not actually too late. You can start to do some efforts, as you can see from the screen, to make sure that at least you are leading to something greener, in the way your product is produced or marketed or distributed or anything else. So green marketing is typically done by companies that really are working around the notion of sustainable development and corporate social responsibility. So as I mentioned, probably if you're thinking about try to increase the environmental impact of your company, it's not too late. If you are not green at all at the beginning, like I mentioned before, you can start to do something to your product or your startups, as mentioned in previous slides. But make sure that before you market your product, and you have to make sure that you are actually working in the notion of sustainable development, right? So why green marketing is really important, particularly in this kind of situations, first, it will help you open new market, since there are many untapped market of this kind of product, and in terms of life cycle, is still new. Yeah, so you still probably experience the growth of market. Yeah, and it's not yet mature. Yeah, it started in Europe. We found it, the customers are mostly based in Europe. Yeah, and we know that in Asia, in US, for example, and other continents, probably this move is still early. Yeah, so we can see that the opportunity is still very large, right? And it can give positive image to your startup, and it can actually increase the competitive advantage. So it's really important. Why? Image now is not only can give the direct impact to your company performance, but it will can actually support, yeah, your startup's perceptions. Yeah, and it will create you become a more sustainable startups, not only in terms of the product, but also in terms of the market. Yeah, they will know that you are a good business, you are a good product, and they will at least consume more and more, and they will your customers will become your promoters. Yeah, they will voluntarily promoting your product, because they know that you are a good company, right? And in terms of economic benefit, yeah, if you are starting to be more aware, yeah, of reducing some for example, yeah, some materials usually used in the productions, or the energy consumed in the productions or creation process or distribution process. Yeah, you may found that the cost, yeah, of the operations will become lower, and then the margin of cost of operations, yeah, will be the profit from operations will be increasing, and it will directly increase your revenue, right? Directly increase your profit as well. So although it is usually very expensive in the beginning to set up with, yeah, but in the long run, it will become a really good investment, yeah, for your company, and it will increase your startup competitive advantage. Yeah, also you will enjoy your work, yeah, because you feel that, okay, my company is a good company, and it will retain employees because they will very proud to work with you because they work in a good company, right? And it will help your startup focus, because it will become one of the metric, yeah, on where your startup will develop your product, on where your startup will actually grow the market is, yeah. And this is most important, yeah, that it will attract investors. Nowadays, the impact become one of the metric in most of investors, yeah, and venture capitals for them to pick startup to be invested. Yeah, so make sure that you can show the metric, yeah, of the how environmentally conscious you are, how much the impact that you give to the community or to environment. So it will become another attraction, yeah, to the investors, and whereby you will have more access, yeah, to grants and some financial resources. And I found some of the grants, they are specifically focused on startups in which give a big impact, yeah, not only socially but also environmentally. Yeah, and it will increase the chance of you acknowledged as a good company, yeah, and it will help you to trigger innovations because you can have a more collaboration so with corporate, yeah. But there are also some disadvantages of green marketing, yeah. First, it requires renewable and recyclable material, which is usually costly, yeah. So you will have a big starting capital, yeah, and there are some problems in deceptive advertising and false claims. It will probably let some trust issues, yeah, to your customers. So you have to make sure that you can convince your customers, yeah, by delivering the real product and the real green product, yeah. And usually it requires technology, yeah, which means that you will need a bigger working capital, yeah. And majority of the people, particularly Indonesia, they are not aware of green products and their uses. So you have to educate them more. You have to increase awareness of this green movement, right? Some technique, yeah, that you can use. First, you have to make sure that customers should be aware, and you have to reassure the buyers, so make sure that you giving a consistent message delivery through different kind of channels that you are using for your marketing. You have to be transparent about the claims, from where you get the claims, yeah, and you have to reconsider pricing, because usually the green product is is priced very high, yeah. And you have to let the customer participations. This actually could increase the co-creations and increase the trust level of the customer itself. Yeah. As they could become the influencer, they could become, we could say, the reseller of your product at the end. Yeah. So if we try to find the tools, yeah, or the model of green marketing strategy, still, yeah, it started with this 4Ps, yeah, how the conventional 4Ps can be turned into the green marketing strategy. Yeah. So first, the concept about the green place. Yeah, you can start the strategy by rethinking about having a green place. So it is more into management tactics, yeah, related to distributions, from productions to consumptions, and also reverse logistic. Yeah. And nowadays internet actually help you do a lot of this kind of process. Yeah. So some strategy could lead to, first, like, you can start to reduce packaging. Yeah. It will help you to reduce transportation costs, optimize carriers, reduce material consumptions. So for example, if you learn IKEA on how they distribute their product, yeah, they make sure that it is packed, yeah, it is easy, and it will really lean in terms of packaging, and it will reduce the cost of transportation. So that's why IKEA products is usually cheaper than other furniture products. Yeah. And you can start to using integrated transportation system, right? And start to use the reverse logistic. Yeah. Probably some of them are mentioned by Dr. Hannah before. Yeah, you can start using information technology and information IT system, right? So why? To make sure that you can track your product, and it will decrease the use of energy, will decrease the use of human intervention, because everything can be controlled through monitor, yeah, through the internet, which is cheaper, yeah, and faster, even better, right? And then you can start using your own dedicated marketer team, right? That will manage products from productions to point of sales and then to customers. Why is that? Because as I mentioned, the awareness of the green itself, yeah, particularly to Indonesian customers, is still low. You have to make sure that you have dedicated marketer teams who has a good product knowledge, yeah, and they can also spread the campaign of your green product. And about the product itself, yeah, you need to have the product that strive to protect and enhance the natural environment, right? So the environmentally friendly features should be shown in different life cycle phases: before usage, during usage, and after usage, right? And it is need to be designed, yeah, as green since the conception stage. Yeah, so probably you can rethink, yeah, about how we can change the product into a greener product. Yeah, some product strategies, yeah, however, you can do some things like this. First, like, you can do recycling, reuse, yeah, the product, or reduce packaging, and you make sure that make the product more durable, repairable. So it is will be very helpful if you provide some information on how to recycle, to reuse, or reduce, or how to repair your product, yeah, in your packaging. So why? Because since there's a really low awareness in terms of this green product, yeah, it is very good if you can provide some information on how your customers can actually improve, yeah, this product usage right after they not using it anymore, right? So give them some some clues, yeah, some process on how they can do many things out of this unused product, or out of this the waste of the product itself. Yeah. So you have to make sure that the valuable and perceivable quality about the product, yeah, which is driven by resource scarcity. Yeah, resource scarcity means that you are make the use of resource you have. Yeah, make sure that if we have this amount of resources in terms of human, technology, financial, or capacity in terms of production technology, how we can make use of it. Yeah. So by not wasting time or productivity, yeah, or working loads, yeah, at least you can save some environment, some energy consumptions, yeah, of the process itself, yeah, and start to use some sustainable packaging. This could become one of the solutions, yeah. So how to measure the gap between expectation and perceived quality of green products itself. Yeah. So I found 3 factors which is really important. If you want to make sure that whether or not your efforts in terms of developing the greener product, yeah, you can measure the impact by asking these three factors to your customers, whether or not they found your product are actually incorporating these 3 aspects. Yeah, first is about tangibility. Yeah, it is more into evidence of senses or regarding labels and aesthetic. Second is about warranty. Yeah, and third is about reliability. Yeah, about functional performance, related quality, and compliance and durability. So if all of these 3 is actually high, yeah, according to the numbers that provided, yeah, means that you are successful, yeah, to fill the customers' expectations about your product. Yeah. The next strategy is about green pricing. Yeah. It is more into how you can set prices for green product that offsets customer sensitivity to price against their willingness to pay more products environmental performance. So you may find that some customers are really price sensitive and they are demand more discounts. Yeah, particularly in Indonesia, right? So while others are willing to pay for an infinite premium. So you have to understand about your customer personas, right? So we know that those who are consuming greener product, they are more into the AB class, right? So they are willing to pay premium, but you have to start to understand that we also have to educate these lower segment markets. So you may think about how if we create a smaller packaging of the product, so the lower segment can actually consume, or you may try to think about some discounts of your product, right? And probably if you want to let your customers pay more, you probably have to increase their willingness. You have to promote how green the product is, and promote how they can contribute to this greener society if they consume the product compared to the ordinary product. So you have to inform some ethical critical point probably. Yeah, and some customers, they will pay more for charity if the end of the product will be one to charity. For example, if you buy this product for 100,000 rupiah, 30% of it, right, will go to charity to wear. Yeah, make sure that you pick the right organizations to collaborate with. So more likely those kind of customers will want to pay more. Yeah, means that you have to communicate this kind of a charity effort, right? And so, or you can start to collaborate with government, yeah, particularly for example, like Ministry and Environmental program, yeah. Ask them to help about giving awareness, yeah, about this kind of product. Some other strategies about promotions, yeah. The most important thing is about the message. I believe that you are really good at picking what channels, yeah. Some millennials really good at that, yeah, how to promote, you have to combine the organic with the unorganic kind of channels, yeah, of delivering a message of your products. But here the message is the most important thing, yeah, if you want to do some green promotions. So first you have to provide complete, correct, and easy to understand informations, right? And sometimes it can incorporate some new terms, yeah, and confusing terms. So you have to explain it in a very simple manners, right? Like when you explain something in to the elementary students, right? Make sure that they understand the message of your promotions, yeah. And you have to start customize the target audience. Why? Because different countries, even different cities in Indonesia, they probably will need different approach, yeah, because their level of knowledge, yeah, and also awareness of this kind of green product will be may differ one to another. So you have to customize the target audience, yeah, and you need to start some emotional commitment and make sure that you have a good customer relationship management, yeah, to make sure that the retention that is high and the loyal customers will consume more and more of your product, yeah. And you have to build some trustful and long-lasting relationship with stakeholders. So you need to be honest, transparent, and credible in terms of delivering the message of your product. So it means that it is not actually giving a fake information, yeah, right. And then assertive message, yeah, are most effective to issues perceived as important. And also you have to be careful of using such terms like eco-friendly, green, or nature. If it is not actually related to your product, then it's better to not using it. Make sure that you're using only some terms which is related to your product, right? And some strategy will be, if you think that all of different efforts may be too complicated, yeah, for you to go by yourself, you probably can start to create alliances with non-profit organizations. So it will help you to increase sales, awareness, and donations, and also increase the customer's loyalty, yeah. So some techniques, first, like I mentioned before, create alliances, yeah, and it will build some mutually beneficial alliances. So make sure that you pick the right partners and who wants to co-promote with you, and they have the same target segment, yeah, with what you have, and you have the same vision in terms of the collaboration, which can be run in a long time, right? So make sure you pick the right partners to do this kind of alliances, right? And don't forget to increase customer participation. Yeah, let them become your loyal customers, as well as become your reseller or your or influencers to their friends, because for this kind of products, which is usually premium, the informations are mostly valuable, which is come from your closest friend or families, right? So make sure that your current customers can be very loyal, and they can become your resellers or even your influencers, right? And don't forget to use eco labels. Make sure you pick the right eco labels. You may Google some isotype, yeah, isotype 1, 2, or 3. Pick the one which actually related to whatever product that you are creating. So this is some examples of startups, yeah, some of our friends. This is I'm YCL coming from Bandung. They are creating leather-like materials coming from mushroom, right? This is how they communicate, yeah, their green marketing. First, and you may see this is come not only from their website, but also come from their Instagram, right? So what you can see here, this is about consistency, educations, yeah, and perceptions, a good perceptions of the company, yeah. So in this setup, you can see on the left, yeah, on the left of the screen, you can see like this sustainability changes choices, like and they actually provide their greenhouse gas report, and this is really good, yeah, that this will increase the trust of your customers. Yeah, they share some reports, yeah, consistently, yeah, and they actually inform about their process, yeah, the production process, and they also consistently share about anything become the features of their product here in the Instagram. So make sure that this is consistent, yeah, in different kind of channels that you are using, right? And here, examples like ways for change. Yeah, this is how they communicate their service to the customers. Yeah, how they work. Yeah, they reduce waste to landfill, and then also Burgrins, yeah, they share about their commitment, yeah, about the impact, yeah, about local farmers empowerment, like underprivileged women empowerment, etc., etc. So make sure that it is really simple, and customers will understand easily about what kind of impact that you're bringing with your product or service. So this is the last thing, yeah, I want to share to you some do's, yeah, if you're working with green marketing, yeah, for your green product. First, you have to make sure that it is consistent with your company's mission and values, right? So it's not only because of it is trending that you want to enter this one, but you have to make sure that whether it is my vision, right? If not, then if it's not your passion, that it will become on temporary. Yeah, make sure that you are there, yeah, full-heartedly, right? It is really important for you as a founder. So I hope some of you are actually a founder of startups or business. Second, be transparent with yourself and your staff and those within your community. Yeah, why? Because it will increase the trust level from inside your company. They will become also your promoter, your supporter, your first tier supporter, right? And third, you have to choose digital marketing as it leaves a lesser impact on the environment. So forgetting about using like pamphlet or else, yeah, or banners, yeah. Digital marketing is actually cheaper, better, and faster, right? And be such an available resource for non-profit organizations you believe in. So make sure that you pick the right partners for you with the same visions, the same target market, yeah, and make sure that it will become a mutually benefit kind of collaborations, yeah. And ensure that you eliminate single-use plastic in your events. If apparently you have to create some offline events, right? It is undeniable. So make sure that you lose single plastic in your event. So attention to the details. Make sure that not every single small part of the events can cause some bias, yeah, in terms of this kind of green campaigns of your product, yeah, and your business. And you have to integrate an interactive campaign, yeah. You may using like omni channels from your websites and also Google Ads or social media or else, yeah. Make sure that you have some plan for that. Yeah, you can integrate the same message, yeah, and make sure it is consistent. So I guess that's all from me. I hope it can enlighten you into something, right? If you want to further chat with me, you can contact me at Dina Dellyana through my Instagram. Right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Dina. That was such an inspiring presentation. Okay, so before we start the discussion, I would like to remind all of the participants, if you have any question, you can put it on at America social media platform, and we will answer it in the Q&A session. Now, so Dr. Dina and Dr. Hana, we know that green marketing strategy are known and expensive and difficult to implement in short run. The benefit of the environment and are intangible, and the cost saved through recycling are debatable, or it's difficult to measure. How the startup or the company can run this green marketing strategy with the suitable or the fit budget to the green marketing strategy. Maybe Dr. Hannah first, you can answer.
Yeah, thank you, Tessa. That's such a good question. I think there's one of the challenges to green strategies in general is that they can be more expensive, especially if you are a smaller or a startup company. And I think Dr. Dina's presentation actually had a lot of tips in it for ways that you can overcome costs. As a supply chain marketing person that focuses on customers, I think it is it's important to know your customer, to know who you're selling your product to. Sometimes if you work with your customers and co-create the product with your customers will be more aware of what you're doing, and they'll be willing to share some of that cost. So I think it's really important in a startup space that you are working really closely with your customers. Also, if you are not working directly with end consumers, I think, and maybe your customer is an overseas company, especially if you sell your products to a company in Europe or in the US. Europe in particular, they're the furthest along with environmental strategies. Like Dr. Dina said, if you're working with a company who's buying from you in Europe, sometimes they will help cover some of your costs as well. And those companies that are buying for you will also be aware that this is more expensive. And so you can work with them to actually boost your prices. And those customers, because they want your product to be more sustainable, potentially will help you with that as well. So I guess my short answer is work with your customers.
We shall know our customer persona, yeah. Okay, and Dr. Dina, you said that in yours you implement the green marketing strategy in some of your startup in your incubator. We know that it's commonly that now millennials love to use green product or green products. So how we can encourage more people, especially the millennials and the elder, to use green product?
Yeah, first we have to talk with their language first. Yeah, right. Why? Because the way me and Dr. Hannah probably we practically on the same ages, yeah, Dr. Hannah. But the way the millennials talk, the Gen Z or whatever it is, yeah, how they communicate different. What channels become their priorities also different. Yeah, what they consume, how they react each other is also very different. So we have to first understand, yeah, about how they communicate and from where they can they grab some informations about the product or knowledge or everything else. So first probably you have to understand your customers, yeah, as well. At the end, every product will have its own market, yeah. But the problem is when you don't know the market, right? So since there are many slices of customers nowadays, yeah, and blame the digitalization particularly, yeah, so people have more choices, and now they even become more confused, yeah, on from where they can source some informations. So you have to carefully selecting on which slices you will focus, yeah, in terms of your customers. So first, after you find, okay, this slices is relevant with my product and the market is big enough, right? And then you start to deep dive about their behavior, right? About the channels that they're choosing, about what could convince them, yeah, on product selection, right? Then you can start to design the green marketing, yeah, according to those particular personas, right? So sometimes it's very confusing, yeah, because you need to have a really good research divisions. So not only research division in terms of the product, but also research division in terms of customers. Why? Because the changes of the customers' behaviors nowadays is so short, right? So in terms of life time of the product consumptions also become very short now. Before you may consume the same food like for the rest of 1 year or 6 months. Now after 1 week you become bored, right? You want to try a new one. How to measure that the retention is there, right? They will reconsume your product. Means that you after you design the good content marketing and also the promotion channels, the second you have to have a good customer relationship management. Yeah, you have to measure the current customers. They will reconsume product. You have to hold them, grab them, yeah, just to make sure that they're not actually forgetting your product. So engagement become the next thing, right? So it's not only keep educating, increase awareness, giving discounts, but also don't forget about these current customers. Engage them, let them participate, like what Dr. Hannah said before. Yeah, co-create with them. Yeah, and ask them to voluntarily promoting your product.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dina. So we should keep the relationship between the startup and the customers. So Dr. Dina and Dr. Hannah, you may know about the single plastic use, and there's in many cities they ban single plastic use, but it's not a longer but many don't last longer. What the biggest challenge to apply to implement this single plastic use? Maybe from Dr. Dina first.
Okay, so the problem is about the cost. Yeah, it's probably because it is cheaper. Nothing can compare. One of the startups coming from our incubator, they make plastic coming from how to call it, cassava, yeah, from cassava, and also the other one they create plastic from apa itu namanya, kalau apa tuh rumput yang ada di laut tuh, rumput laut apa sih? Seaweed, right? Yeah. But still it's 100 times more expensive, yeah, compared to those plastic one. So first about the cost, yeah. Second about the government, yeah, about the top down kind of forces from the government itself. So it's sometimes not consistent, right? Why? Because they also be given forces from the industry itself. Yeah. So we need to have a government who has a environmentally conscious kind of vision, right? So we have to, yeah, let them govern in a green way, right? So sometimes it is not consistent about the regulation. So third is about the we may say the recycle point, yeah, and reuse point of this kind of plastic is not available yet. And I found some of startups and effort, yeah, coming from startups to how to manage this kind of plastic waste, because for some plastic waste like mineral water bottles, yeah, and everything, there's an industry for that. So it's not become a big issues anymore, right? So but for this kind of single-use plastic like kantong kresek, yeah, in Indonesia, I don't know how to say it in English, yeah, it is really hard to recycle, yeah. So probably if government cannot consistently promoting from customers' point of view, they can help to build or to support some startups who works on this kind of effort, yeah, on managing the waste from a single-use plastic. Or probably they can start to build each centers, yeah, in each cities or areas, yeah, for recycling this one-time plastic kind of things. So this is this kind of work, yeah, cannot be carried out only by the startup or only by the customer, since as we see the awareness is still low, yeah, government should take part on this kind of action.
Thank you. And Dr. Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Tessa. And Dr. Dina, I'll probably end up echoing some of the things that you said as well, although I don't know any of the Bahasa Indonesian names of plastic. But it is interesting. I think they're, thinking about it from the sourcing and customer perspectives, it is really hard to change current practices of customers. And so what we see a lot of times in the US, we have this example that is sort of similar with aluminum cans, like soda cans that you get like Coca-Cola in. And a lot of the aluminum in the US is now fully recycled. So if you buy a can of soda, those cans get recycled. But it took a lot of years to train consumers to throw those cans away differently, so that they're not going in the waste bin, right? They're not going in the trash. It also took a commitment from the government, like Dr. Dina said, to build the infrastructure for recycling. So you have to have ways of bringing the products back from the consumer so that you can recycle it, you can extract value from the product after life. So I think there's two different things. It takes a generation, I think, sometimes to change consumer habits. So if you really want to, or you have an idea for an environmentally friendly product, I think we can use that word, right, Dr. Dina? It's okay. Or a green product. I don't know which one was better. If you have an idea for it, go after the young generation, because the young generation then will become lifetime customers, and then they'll teach their children. And so, you'll gain the next generation. Sometimes it's really hard to change the practices of a current generation. And you definitely see those kinds of patterns that when young people adopt, sometimes they can encourage their parents to, but for sure, they'll encourage their students. So it's a long game, for sure.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hana and Dr. Dina. This is such a wonderful discussion. I see there's a lot of question waiting for answer, but before I read the question, I will do a little bit of wrapping up from this Dr. Dina and Dr. Hana presentation. So let's go back from Dr. Hana presentation. The awareness regarding green product and green marketing is increased, and it is becoming more important as now people are more concerned about their environment and becoming more socially responsible. The objective of the green marketing is to satisfy the needs and desire of the customers and keep the company responsible in maintaining long-term social and environmental gains. And from Dr. Dina, there's a lot benefit of green marketing, especially for startup, and company can set mixed green pricing or green promotion. And also, all green marketing activities are focused along with environmental concern in green marketing. And new management practice has been adopted for producing and promoting environmentally friendly product as sustainable growth and profitability are ensured. So, without any further ado, we will jump to the Q&A session. The America team already compiled many questions. The first one is from @OMG he spoke. OMG she spoke. The question is, what are your thoughts on companies that looks green but it's actually a marketing ploy? Maybe we can start from Dr. Hana.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of ways of researching companies now that weren't necessarily available before. So I do think that you can definitely read labels, and there's some tells, but also look and explore the products themselves. So I think you have to do your own research. You have to know what differentiates a green product from a not green product, and so I do think that there is some, we call it greenwashing, where companies have green messaging, but they don't have green practices out there as a consumer. So I think that really the only advice I can say is, read the product labels, think about what is going into the product itself, and do some research. And I think that is probably the easiest way to know, even though sometimes it is hard to really differentiate, even as a researcher, which companies are truly doing it and which ones aren't.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah. What do you think, Dr. Dina?
Yeah, I guess it is unethical practice, yeah, coming from those kind of business, right? So I really hope that there's some organizations, I don't know if it's available in Indonesia, which can help to find those scams and try to decrease, yeah, numbers of those kind of product in Indonesia. Why? Because it will actually hamper, yeah, the effort of the real startups who are battling in this kind of increasing green product awareness. Yeah, it will actually let them fail, right? Because it's really hard to convince our customers. At the same time, there are some startups who do those kind of unethical practice. Yeah, so we need help, yeah, not only coming from the government or organizations which can try to do some tracking, yeah, on those fake businesses, but also we need a kind of channel can let the customers reports, yeah, about these fake products. So particularly this kind of like social media, yeah, can become one of the channels, yeah, to let the users or customers reporting, yeah, but there it need to be one organizations, yeah. So if probably one of you here, yeah, as a participants wants to do some good things, yeah, for these nations, at least you can do some start some movement, yeah, by opening like channels in or account in Twitter, for example, on or Instagram, yeah, to let your friends or everyone, yeah, reporting some fake or some unethical practice, yeah, coming from those so-called green startups, yeah, I guess.
Thank you, Dr. Dina. So there's a lot of green product, but if we try to be more specific and detailed, we can go through that product. So the next question is from the Rimsky00. For Dr. Dina, could you give us an example of a local business that implements the green strategies and have succeed in its business? Please, Dr. Dina.
Yeah, can you repeat the question one more? I kind of lost in the last sentence.
Okay. Could you give us an example of local business that implements this green strategy and already success in its business?
Okay. Yeah, like some of the startups, yeah, I mentioned in my presentations, like Mycotech, yeah, MYCL. They already have the trademark on for them, yeah, the MYCL. Like Waste for Change, and also we have Bergreens. For fashions, we probably know Sejauh Mata Memandang, right? There are so many startups, yeah, and they not always the tech startup. Like fashion, yeah, the Sejauh Mata Memandang is a fashion created by Citra Supiapto, yeah. They use organic materials, yeah. They use they use a sustainable process. They incorporate local people to make the product itself, yeah. And they campaigning the product through and the movement, yeah, through their events and also through their social media, and which then built a good brand of Sejauh Mata Memandang itself. Although the price of the product is quite expensive, yeah, for an outer, probably you may pay you have to pay like 1.5 million rupiah, but still many people sometimes cannot get the product because it's already sold out, right? Means that this movement is successful, and it is because of their consistency, delivering a really good product and delivering the message and actually running its own campaign, yeah, with or without any you may say spotlight from the medias, right? So at the end, you have to pay attention to your product first, because a good product will marketing itself. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dina. I already bought from Sejauh Mata Memandang too, and it's good product, even though it's a little bit expensive. And so we move to the next question. It's from Bunga Sri Hidayat. The question is for Dr. Hana. If in the end, sustainable supply chain is only used to attract consumers without real action from the company, does it happen a lot, and how to overcome it? Please, Dr. Hana.
Yeah, so I think it happened a lot more in the past. I definitely think there was a season of time, maybe 30 years ago in the US, where a lot of companies said they were green, and they really had a lot of practices, actually, that we call it like pollution exporting. So their business in the US was pretty clean and green, but with how the product was actually made overseas was not environmentally friendly. A lot of that has shifted because of things like ISO certifications. So ISO certifications are international standard certifications that create accountability. So ISO 14000 is a certification that is an international standard for manufacturing that is the same everywhere in the world. So if you want to look at a company, if they are environmentally friendly, you can see whether they're ISO certified or not. And that does start to change things quite a bit when there's accountability. And so I think the other challenge, when, it's only been really in the last 50 years that supply chains and, how products have been made is so global. And it is really hard to know if your supply chain is sustainable when you maybe don't know all of your suppliers, or you haven't seen all the factories where your products are made. And so companies in the last 20 years, I gave the Patagonia, example. If I know it's a North American brand, but companies like that make a really concerted effort to know all of their suppliers and to really get feet on the ground to see where their product is coming from, and to go and visit plants and visit all the manufacturers. So as a company, you really need to know your entire supply chain. As a consumer, you can look for different tells of whether a company is being legitimate or not. But I do think the ISO certifications are one way. There are different standards or different certifications that you can get as well. For consumer packaged goods in Indonesia. Probably Dr. Dina knows those better than me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hana. We jump to our third question. Okay, this is an interesting question from Karima. The question is from YouTube, and the questions are, what are your thoughts on the fast fashion brands? For example, H&M, Zara, etc., that have their own eco-friendly line, but still implement massive clothing production volume. Maybe the first answer is from Dr. Dina.
Yeah, it's kind of issues right now about fast fashion, right? Practiced by some of the big brands like Target, H&M, Zara, as we know that, yeah, and the problem is we also still consume it, right? So so they will stop if no one consume their product, right? Still, so it's about supply and demand in terms of these situations, right? And some efforts in some green lines, yeah, of their product lines, yeah, some green product on their lines is some effort to reduce at least their carbon print, yeah, out of 100% product they have, yeah, in Zara or H&M, which is probably good, right? In a point of view that at least they start something, right? But still, we have to ask for more, yeah, in terms of what is the next effort that those big brands will do, right? And Zara and other big brands should not only focus on yeah, on their perceptions or on customer perception about the product, but they are consciously doing it because they want to start to change some percentage of their green product and non-green product, the slow fashion and the fast fashion today. I hope it is like an effort to slowly decrease the fast fashion way, and slowly increase slow fashion way of their. Okay, but I don't know whether it is becoming their visions, or is it only another marketing scam like the other brand do, right? About how to just grab the attentions of those greener customers, just to make sure that those customers want to go, okay, how if we try to we may say that how if we try to go with this kind of waves and try to make some greener product. I hope not on that directions. I hope they actually moving on the first direction, which they starting to reduce the percentage of the fast fashion way, and they start to increase the slow fashion way, which I think it might need a little more time, for those big brands to shift. As long as there's some consumers, they won't stop. So still, it's not only effort coming from the brand, but also we have to educate the customers that this actually producing a lot of waste, in terms of the product in itself, also after the use of the product itself.
I think if the brand like H&M and Zara keep collaboration with K-pop artists or some artists, it's hard to millennials to stop buy their product. So, Dr. Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think with any environmental strategy of a company, or thinking about it from the consumer end, either the market demands it, so consumers have to change their behavior, or governments push it. So it seems like it has to come from either consumers and their buying habits, or the shift has to come from consumers voting for the governments to get companies to change. So it is a, like Dr. Dina said, it's definitely a supply and demand thing. And with fast fashion, definitely they have created efficiencies in the fashion industry and in textile industries that are, in terms of their global supply chain. Zara has a very efficient global supply chain in terms of getting product to market, but it doesn't actually measure the waste, that comes out of that supply chain as well. And so I think some of the end of life things with fast fashion, just because a t-shirt is now, $1 or very inexpensive, doesn't mean we need to consume t-shirts like we do candy bars, if they have the same price point. And so it's thinking through, it's kind of a win on the consumer end. If you buy a t-shirt that lasts you the whole year, and now you're paying a fraction of the price. So a lot of it is, it comes down to, it needs to be a partnership, I think, between the government and companies and consumers thinking differently about the products they're getting. And those kinds of changes need champions. So they need millennials that say, we want to have an environment in the future that we can push this waste out, and people who are willing to pay more for the more environmental brands and pay attention to where their products are really coming from.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hannah. There's a lot of questions waiting to be answered. The fourth question is from @understanding_nature. This is for Dr. Hannah. What are the ways to involve consumers in contributing to green product management that can be applied?
There's a lot of examples of different companies, and Dr. Dina, I'll lean on you because you know the startup industry in Indonesia much better than me, but there's a lot of examples of companies in the US who have started doing something called crowdsourcing. And with crowdsourcing, they reach out to consumers to get whether it's design ideas or material ideas for ways of creating products. And the great thing about engaging and co-creating with consumers on social media platforms is that it's really inexpensive. it takes time to, analyze the data and make sure that you're responding to consumer ideas. But one way that seems really effective in the US right now is through crowdsourcing. And we see a lot of different examples of that, whether it's in the product development or in the advertising and the campaigns around environmental products as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah. There's a question from Aninda, but we already discussed it about single plastic use. So we jump to the next question. It's from Sagaria Arinalha. This question is for Dr. Dina. How do you think about the green product which has an expensive price in the market because the material and the process are usually hard to get? Do you have some advice for a new startup who wants to produce the green product?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, it probably quite challenging, for startups working in a green product because usually they cost a lot of money to produce it. Yeah. The one thing sometimes people they not really okay in paying a high price for the product because they don't know actually what makes the product really expensive, right? But it's really good that you have to communicate with your customers in terms of why it is as expensive, right? So you have to, for example, say like one of the brand, they are working selling the, you call it tenun, tenun Indonesia. So Dr. Hannah, it is one of the we call it material coming from eastern part of Indonesia. So why for one sheet of tenun costs really expensive, like 2 million rupiah, and it's really small size of tenun, because to produce one tenun it will require 2 months for mamak, she call it, for a woman to make it by their hand, and the material itself coming from the organic cotton, right? And they are using an organic coloring kind of material, coming from the forest. They come from the forest, like the indigo. They kind of smash it by their hands, and then they create the coloring themselves, and that's why it's really expensive. So probably you have to communicate, on why this product is so expensive. It's probably because to generate the material itself is quite challenging, or it's coming from rare areas, or it's really hard to produce, and it's incorporate, for example, the humans itself by their own hands for how long. And then we probably discuss about the distribution channels. For example, like from east part of Indonesia, you distribute it to like west part of Indonesia, is really expensive, and it's not every day that the package courier can actually deliver the product from east part of Indonesia. So this kind of details you have to chop it and make it some marketing content, So you have to consistently communicate it, and why this product is really expensive. You have to communicate also in your packaging and also in your communication channels. Also, if you work with like mamak, or like woman coming from the eastern part, you have to put probably their photos. You have to give proof, in your websites that we are really working with this woman. You can see the Instagram of the woman, or you can visit them where, or you can contact them where, or you can put some photos or some videos on the process itself. So by letting the customers know about the process, how difficult it is, or how organic it is, it will let them understand. Even before I understand about the process of tenun making, I really, wow, it's so expensive. After I know, I even want to pay more, because I'm quite pity with women for 2 months. they only like doing this and this, and not everything else. The rest would be feeding their child, right, and doing some homework. The rest they are doing like making the tenun itself. So they said it's 2 million rupiah, I will pay like 3 million rupiah because I know the effort of making the tenun itself. So that's the power of when you can communicate in a transparent way, in a sincere way. So whenever customers want to recheck, yeah, they not feel like I'm being trapped or I'm being fooled, yeah, by your marketing activities. But it is there, the women are there, yeah, the material are there, and if we want to check the location, they are actually there, yeah, just to make sure that it's not a scam, right? So probably that's all.
Thank you, Dr. Dina. And nowadays, the startup is actually quite smart to choose the right channel for promote their product. So this is the last question from Antonius Reynaldo. This is for Dr. Hana and Dr. Dina. Will tote bags one day be the main pollutant of the ocean if some stores keep handing out tote bags? If you do not bring your own shopping bag, what do you think? From Dr. Hana, the first question.
Could you just a little? Is he talking about the waste going into the ocean?
Yeah, will tote bags one day be the main pollutant of the ocean if some stores keep handing out tote bags, and if we as the shopper do not bring our own shopping bag?
Yeah, this is a great question, and this comes up a lot, both in the research example that I use, of the printer cartridges, for the ink cartridges for the printers, and then Dr. Dina talked about this a little bit in the packaging. When you think about a product, sometimes the product itself, once you consume it, like fruit or a consumable product, the core product itself is consumed and gone. And really where the waste and the pollution comes in throughout the entire supply chain isn't the core product itself, it's the packaging that's necessary to get it to market. And so packaging is going to probably be the biggest challenge in thinking through the place piece of green marketing strategies and green products. Because not only are there bags in the grocery stores, there's also plastic around products. There's the single-use plastics. There's a lot of packaging that goes into getting products to the marketplace. And so I think that moving towards reusable bags is one way that we can keep plastic bags from being the next, big pollutant of the ocean. I think the other challenge is thinking about ways to recycle and reuse plastic bags in ways they haven't been recycled and reused. It is definitely a challenge. Plastics in general are, I think, a big challenge to ocean pollutants right now. So there's probably a few different packaging products vying for the spot of #1 ocean pollutant right now. But I do think that reusable bags definitely help. So thinking about packaging and packaging throughout the entire supply chain is really critical.
Okay, thank you. We move to Dr. Dina.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Hana here. You have to rethink about the packaging since the beginning of the product acquisitions, yeah, until after it is being used, then what you can do, yeah, with those packaging. So it's really important for the producers to think about not only the product but also the packaging. In terms of the tote bag, I guess it is one of the effort to reduce the plastic use, yeah, and so probably you can start to make it really good so the customers will not dump it again, because the one of the case that happened in Indonesia, because the tote bag is it is impossible for them to reuse, yeah, because it is not well designed, yeah, and for them they think that such a waste, yeah, and it's cost a lot of money, yeah. So just to make sure that one of the way to make sure that the customers will reuse it again and again, make sure that you incorporate a really good design, or at least you can use a really simple one, right? Why? You have to understand that the tote bag, the one that is recyclable, it can become a good marketing kit, right? So if you design the tote bag very good, yeah, so the customers will be proud of using it again and again, right? You have to understand that it will become your mobile marketing, right? So about the tote bag which is being done, that's because the design is not good enough, so the customers don't want to use it again and again. So make sure that you create a good design for your tote bag, and they will use it again and again. And remember why we should do such effort, because it can become your mobile advertising kit.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Dina and Dr. Hana, for the inspiring, and I gain a lot of knowledge here for today's session. Before we close this session, maybe there's a closing statement from both of you. Maybe we can start from Dr. Hana. Please, Dr. Hana.
Thank you, Tessa, and thank you, Dr. Dina. I learned so much from your presentation as well, and this is such an important conversation. And we, I think, all have a responsibility to the next generation to think about, we have great capacity and great abilities to make lots of really cool products and to sell different products in the marketplace. But it's not just about getting a customer to buy our product. I think there's an important responsibility to also think through what is the customer's experience and how they utilize that product, and what is the impact of that product once it reaches the end of its life. And so I know that I talked a lot about what happens when there's bad news, what happens when things go wrong. Consumers really care, and it's really important to get it right. But there's also a lot of opportunity to think differently, to engage new customer segments that really care about sustainability. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in this space for next generation products and for companies to make more money by thinking really creatively with their customers in this space.
Thank you, Dr. Hana. And Dr. Dina, your last statement, closing statement.
Yeah, it's such an honor for me to be here, not only sharing with you guys, but also learning from Dr. Hana's presentation as well. And yeah, I agree that this is really important meetings that we have here. Yeah, I hope all of this, all of the participants can grab something. Yeah, at least for yourself. Yeah, it could increase your awareness, or probably starting something which is good. Yeah, coming from your own self, like you want to start consume something green, or you want to start doing the campaign, or some effort like I mentioned, yeah, like opening a new channels for customers to report, yeah, some fake green products. Yeah, I hope it can actually enlighten something from each one of you. And the second is actually about why it is really important that we just starting actually in Indonesia. Yeah, and as you know that the awareness level probably very low. So we are here as an educated person. Yeah, probably could help increase the awareness, yeah, of this green product or green campaign. Yeah, at least for it is think about your future, the future of your children. Yeah, at the end. Yeah, at least if small part of people probably can, starting from the participants of this Zoom, yeah, can do something. I guess we can amplify, yeah, this kind of effort, yeah, to all over Indonesia. So please do something. Yeah, we really hope something coming from you guys from today's discussion. Yeah, I guess you will learn a lot from Dr. Hana. Yeah, I hope also from my presentation, and I hope we can actually influence you in something, giving some ism to your mind. Yeah, and yeah, see you on top, yeah, for your effort.
All right, thank you, Dr. Dina. Well, we are in the end of our discussion today. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our two honorable speaker, Dr. Hana. Thank you for your time, and Dr. Dina, thank you for your time too. I learned a lot from this discussion, and I would like also thank to At America team for providing the space for us to have this discussion. And also, I would like to apologize for all of my shortcomings during this whole discussion. Thank you very much for your participation. And now I'm returning it to At America team. Kak Ninda.
Thank you so much to all speakers and moderator for today's very informative session. It's been great having you with us. Earlier in this event, we asked our audience, the question was, when did regulation banning single-use plastic bags in traditional markets, modern supermarkets, and mini markets across Jakarta take effect? And the correct answer is C, July 2020. Shout out to @PYXRN from Instagram for answering correctly. Thank you to everyone who has participated to our trivia. Don't forget to tune in next time and catch a chance to get a shout out from us. As I mentioned earlier in this event, At America is having a very special activity this August called #Academania, and we are so looking forward to your participation in it. We are giving out a voucher for a TOEFL IBT test and another American standardized test of your choice. To know more about this activity and how to join, you can visit our link at atam.tv/academania. Now, you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Easy. You can simply send your event proposal to us by visiting our website at www.atamerica.org.id. Select Create a Program and go collaborate with us. All the event proposals will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to get our weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. Well, that wraps this episode. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye. Follow our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at @ATAmerica for all our event updates, fun content, and so much more. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thanks for joining us. My name is Aninda, and see you next time at America TV.